Everyone joining us. If you'd like to drop in the chat your name, location, and are you a new member? Because we've had several new members joining us. So drop if you're a new member. If you joined us, let's say in the last 2 to 3 months, let us know. We'd like to get to know you. Today's agenda, we will be going over just some historical information concerning the Congressional Paid Leave Working Group. We're going to review the work to date together to kind of, if anyone's like totally new, like what is the Paid Leave Working Group? How did Mom Congress get involved? No worries, we got you. We will explain all of that today. And then kind of dive into a working session. Crystal's done an amazing job with gathering your feedback and synthesizing it and done some coding, and we've discussed some things. And so I'm really excited to go through the inclusive response that we have drafted and put together that's inclusive of equity of voice of all of our Mom Congress members. We'll hear some of you all's live feedback as we're kind of going through it and do some live edits on screen today, and then end with some questions and answers. And I'm going to toss it over to Crystal, I think. You're muted, Crystal. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ebony. If you want to hit refresh, I snuck in a couple logos onto the screen as I give everyone an update on the Paid Leave Working Group. So again, thank you all for being here. We'll have people who are popping in and out throughout the session. This is meant to be a casual opportunity for us to connect about really important work. So please continue to utilize the chat to say hello to one another, but also if you have questions as we go, we'd be happy to either address them or let you know that we're anticipating addressing them before the end of the session. But just keep the messages coming. That's what the chat is there for, and welcome your feedback as we go throughout this session. So to level set with you all, last year, or at the end of 2022, rather, beginning in 2023, the couple members of Congress realized that the paid leave issue in the United States has not been addressed at the federal level. They wanted to start a bipartisan conversation, which of course piqued our interest because we want to get behind bipartisan solutions-focused legislation that will solve the paid family leave issue in the United States. So of course, very excited to say that there were two women leading the charge there. You have Representative Stephanie Bice from Oklahoma and Representative Chrissy Houlihan. If you're a new member on our call, we definitely invite you to make sure you know who your House of Representatives member is. I will get here to the chat in a few minutes and put a link in for you to find that representative in case you do not know who they are. But this working group was convened as a group of 10 individuals from the House of Representatives. And then they were lucky enough to get the attention of some individuals on the Senate side. And we had senators also develop their own version of the paid leave bipartisan working group in the middle of last year as well. So we're excited to see that work in development. And we can go to the next slide. And we'll share with you all that what that bipartisan working group did was bring together equal members from both the Democratic and the Republican Party to come together and complete a 6-part learning series that they all did together. So behind closed doors, they all got together, and we can click on that press release, Ebony, and I will put a link for this in the chat as well. It is contained on the slide, so if you're watching this recording afterwards, you can just click right on that press release and get the link that I'm going to put into the chat here. And what they did was they explained what they were going to do to look at all the different issues, and they released this press release that gives you some insight into what each of those meetings covered. So we can scroll down here and see the summary of the 6 meetings included the history of the Family Medical Leave Act, lessons learned from successful state-level paid leave efforts, hearing from private insurance industry, convening small business leaders, large employers and trade association collaboration, and then looking at the intersection of caregiving and paid leave. So these were very thoughtfully broken down, and then they shared these minutes from each of the meetings here in this press release. That chat is coming, or excuse me, that link is coming there in chat too. So invite you to review those at any time to learn a little bit more about those working sessions that they had. And then we can go back to our slides. And we can share with you all that after our 2023 Mom Congress Hill Day, several of us were able to meet with the paid leave working group. So the day after our Hill Day, we returned to the Hill in order to go meet with a couple offices, and the paid leave working group was one that was willing to hear from us, which was really powerful and impactful. And at this point in time during this meeting, they shared with us that their intention was to ask for more stakeholder feedback, and that there would be an opportunity for us to submit on behalf of all of our Mom Congress members the thoughts and opinions of us as a larger group. So that was really exciting to learn, and glad that that's come to fruition today. And then this next press release is their insight to framework for bipartisan policy to be released here in the next, hopefully in the next session. So we can click on this press release. I will put this one in the chat as well. And this is explaining what their initial thoughts are for solutions-focused legislation based on the meetings that they've already had. And then they'll take the input from groups like ours today and individual stakeholders who will be submitting more feedback for them as they continue to develop this. So this legislative framework you'll see here gives that same background that I just shared with you about Chrissy Houlihan and Stephanie Bice bringing together the group of leaders to do the research here. And we can scroll down to see that they have released core pillars of legislative framework in 4 departments. So one will be public-private partnership, paid leave pilot programs. So states who want to set up a new paid leave program. Number 2, coordination and harmonization of paid leave benefits across the states. Thirdly, small employer pooling for paid leave insurance, so an option for small businesses. And then 4th is improvements to 45S, which is the paid leave tax credit for small businesses and working families. So you can, again, look through this information here to get some more insight on the work they've already done and the direction they believe they're going to be heading. Again, this is framework, so this is not draft legislation. These are the initial ideas that the group is sharing for how they believe there is bipartisan path forward in order to create meaningful legislation. So I'll pause there for a minute. I know that's a lot of information, and just want to offer anyone an opportunity to ask a question, get some clarity, share any thoughts that you have so far. We've been sharing some of this information in our members e-news, but curious, is this something you were attuned to? Did you know that this group was making these efforts? Do you have any questions about the information we have shared so far? All right. Well, like I said, you're welcome to drop information in the chat at any time. We will keep going. Oh, thanks so much, Cheryl. I'm so glad you're here. Cheryl has the most amazing, well, I'll share with you all here in a minute. You'll get to see the work there that Cheryl's brought to us for the for our response letter. So on December 13th of 2023, the Congressional Paid Leave Working Group put out an RFI, a request for information. So it was in the form of a letter that you can see written here. They're going to closely review submissions to help inform ongoing bipartisan efforts, and individual submissions will be kept confidential. So please note, trustworthy data and research with proper citations will be appreciated. Wanted to make sure that we shared that with you all so that you would understand the spirit of what we're writing and why we're writing it, and also to let you know that if there is something that you really want to share with the group that may not be contained within the Mom Congress letter. So we're looking to stay really closely aligned to our policy pillars and to the issues that our members have brought forward previously. But you are welcome to submit individual responses as well, and we'll be sure to share the information for how you can do that on an individual basis. So these are the signatures of those members that came out with that RFI. You may spot your member on here. Wanted to share those names with you. And we can go to the next slide and go ahead and start reviewing how we analyzed our member responses. Let me just read our chat here real quick. Oh, thanks, Lori. It's so good to have you here. I'm so glad to keep you all informed. This is really great, exciting work, and gives me so much hope. And I hope that you all feel the same way after we get to chat today. So here's our timeline. So this is just our internal analysis of the responses that we received from our Mom Congress membership, in addition to some research that we've been saving up, also information that's been shared on our website previously. Mom Congress has had a statement on paid parental leave that has lived on since 2019. There have been several bills over the years that have been listed under there, but we wanted to share with you all just to give you some insight on how we came to the conclusions that we have so far, but then also understanding that today's opportunity is for live edits and live feedback. So what we're going to be reviewing is a draft letter. So well, you'll see here, we noted there were a lot of different themes that came out during the review. So each question was asked individually, literally as a copy paste of what the paid leave working group asked for information about. But we saw themes popping up all across the different responses. And so one was the dollar amount. So the actual amount was needing to be a living wage. There were certain notes like 60% is not enough. Notations like a reasonable percentage, and then how do we define reasonable, and is reasonable different to different individuals? And so there was a lot of that being noted, like we don't know what the answer is, but you need to make sure it's a living wage. We noted lots of themes around the duration of the amount of time. And what most people seem to say is that there's a lot of options, but that the federal government should decide on what we think it, or what they or the collective United States thinks is the right amount of time when it comes to maternity leave. There's a lot of questions surrounding other types of paid leave, and 88% of our respondents specifically said that paid leave should be available to anyone who needs to be a caregiver. So it's not just parental leave or maternity leave. So defining that amount of time was not easy, and there's a lot of question marks surrounding that. And it seems to be that give people the time that they need. What time is that? Not sure yet, but we'll continue to have that conversation. So, and then different inspirations for around why people should be given leave, as we just mentioned. And then you can see here as we scroll down, we pulled out each of the individual questions and then pulled out powerful quotes that we could then review as a group to continue to pull out those themes and see where things had been said individually versus things that we kept reading over and over and over again. So that is the very long, drawn out explanation for how we analyzed the responses we got. We'd also love to share with you the USBC template. If you just want to go back one more, Ebony, that's that second link I snuck in there. Yes. So Cheryl is here on the call. Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing this awesome template. So, Cheryl, I don't want to put you on the spot. If there's anything you'd like to share about how this amazing work was formulated, or I know that you all were heavily focused on feeding and did some really great work here.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm so thrilled that it's been useful. So our template is actually building off of a different template that was developed by the Paid Leave for All Legislative Working Group. So the National Partnership for Women and Families has a template that they shared, and we took that as kind of the base and then added in all kinds of stuff, really connecting it specific to infant feeding and the relation between paid leave and breastfeeding outcomes, health outcomes, maternal mental health, all that kind of a thing. So you'll kind of see it jump from the more kind of like technical lawyery language. A lot of that is from the National Partnership template, and then the public health language and stuff is coming from the USPC as a working group that spent a little time on this. I'll point out just a couple of things. So one is, so actually right where you are, so you had raised the question around length of time, and the International Labor Organization recommends a minimum of 14 weeks for maternity leave. So that might be a helpful point to make across. That being said, our template is very much focused on, you know, parental leave, and also it tries to really emphasize that parental leave is only one of the many occasions through which you might need paid leave, and that access to paid leave for the, you know, all the different kinds of reasons someone might need it is important for the well-being of infants and families overall. So it's maternity leave is really the most it's the most widely understood, the most widely recognized, it has the most political will, and also it's only one of the reasons. So really kind of trying to make sure we're threading that needle in service of the larger paid leave legislative agenda. I'm trying to think of anything else. Is anything coming up for you, Crystal, that'd be helpful to
Well,
talk?
yeah, actually, when you said that, I wanted to say that one of the other themes that we pulled from a lot of our responses was people saying, I may not have the answer, but look to other countries. I know that other countries have solved this problem. So we really went deep kind of into that research piece. So we did pull the piece here calling out specifically about the International Labor Organization, Maternity Protection Convention, the 14-week recommendation, and then found some really great research on the case for 14 weeks, because there's some good research showing that 13 weeks or less actually does not have the same beneficial outcomes as at the minimum of 14 weeks. So this was really hugely helpful. And again, to go back at that theme of our members saying, like, I know other countries have figured it out. Like, let's look at somebody else. Look at our state models that have had success. California is one of them, and then look at international models that have had success and the research that's behind it. So yeah, this was really awesome. All right. So now we can dive into our draft working letter. And again, what we'll do is we'll show you this draft, talk you through the themes that we found and some of the thoughts that we've had along the way, and then invite you to share in the chat. You can come off mute, raise a hand, whatever feels right. So it seems like we have, I'm just reading a chat message, sorry. It seems like we have a basic problem of not having any leave protected for many workers. Yeah, absolutely. Back to that point of, we know that the Mom Congress lane, right, is really focused on maternity and childcare and those intersections and how it affects maternal health. But understanding that this could solve for a larger problem. And Cheryl, I love what you said about political will, right? Like that's what we hope that they'll hear first, is like, let's prioritize the maternity care, and hopefully everything else can fall in place behind it. Sharon, go ahead. Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. So I wrote that comment and I probably didn't write it completely because I'm not a great typist. But I think that the basic problem though is that a lot of workers don't have maternal leave protected at a basic level, like paid or not. There's a lot of companies that will just fire you. You're not allowed to take leave.
Yes, absolutely.
At all. Like, I'm not talking about other types of family leave. I'm talking about for pregnancy or birth. You have your 2 weeks off a year and that is it. And it's like a very basic problem before we even get into like paid leave.
Well, absolutely. The job protections, right? Having job protections in place for things like being able to leave to have a baby. And to your point of going back in 2 weeks, I think the latest statistic is like over 50% of people return to the workforce. And that number is much higher for marginalized communities. So it's, yeah, that's part of the problem, and paid leave is the goal, right? But to your point, just protected leave so you can have a baby and still go back to the job that you want to have would be a huge step in the right direction. So what we've done here, oh, and Christine, thank you so much for your comment. I just wanted to say Christine had the most amazing responses, and I love seeing the inner working of your brain when you share your thoughts behind paid leave, Christine. So that was really exciting to read. So what we've done here is that we are addressing the paid leave working group in a familiar manner, in the sense that they are familiar with our work and they know that we have been cheering for them and sending our ideas and thoughts here and there along the way with their team. So we've shared with them that we are grateful for the opportunity, who we are again as the policy organization for moms in the US, membership organization for advocates. If you don't know, we're 419 members, I think, strong as of this morning. So we're getting close to that goal of 435 members, one to represent each of the US congressional districts. I'll say it out loud because if I keep saying it, it will become true. I believe it. So our team was honored to meet with the working group in September, and we look forward to supporting the bipartisan bills that will come from this from these efforts. So what we've done here is we've called out the themes that we saw in responses. We aligned them with the Mom Congress policy pillars that are already in place, and also aligned with anything that came out of our 2021, 2 or 3 member surveys, which 2024 member survey will be out soon. But and then called forward those themes and then really wanted to center the voice of members. And so we've pulled out some quotes here from people that struck us along the way, and there may be more. And if something comes to you, or if a piece of research comes to you that, you know, oh, I got to find that, please just send it along to us. We plan to submit probably midday tomorrow. So we do have a little bit of time if we want to add and change some things. This is a living Google document. As you can see, there's people in here adding notes and thoughts as we go. So please note that there's still more time if you'd like to share some more insight there. Oh, awesome, Christine, perfect. I will pull from the parents piece. That's wonderful. Okay, let me find you again here. So here we are with the federal role. So it's the consensus of our membership that it's beyond time for the United States to have paid federal leave policy. And I apologize. Let me drop a link for you all in case you'd like to follow along in the document. And there you can jump in there with us. Okay, there's that link to the document for those of you that would like to have the ability to be in there and look too. So what we did is we pulled some quotes here from members that you're welcome to review, but really spoke to the federal role. Every single person who responded said, yes, there should be some sort of federal consensus. So we're not making any specific recommendations here. We're just saying, yes, we agree, and please get it done. Types of leave, priority populations, and duration of leave. Again, there's a couple quotes here from members and addressing that all types of leave should be treated equitably. And then we note here that Mom Congress members want legislators to look at the rest of the world when establishing recommendations for paid leave policy. And then you'll see that piece here that Cheryl referenced. So this is the International Labor Organization's standards that have been established. You're welcome to jump in here and pull that research if you'd like to get into the nitty gritty. Essentially what it says is that in 1919, and then again, and I think they were updated in 1952, the International Labor Organization made recommendations for a maternity protection convention. So that spells out everything, including the research for what was found and why the argument is when it comes to maternity leave for a minimum of 14 weeks. And then down below here, we've included our original Mom Congress statement that Mom Congress will endorse a paid leave program that at a minimum allows parents to care and bond for their new babies and people to care for themselves or family members when they have serious health conditions, including postpartum or other mental health disorders. Just going to come back here. I know, Kelly, over 100 years ago. Exactly. Like I must have read that like 15 times. I was like, that doesn't say, this is 1919. Like so yes, 100 years ago. And again, invite you to dig into any of the research that's been quoted down here. Other information for consideration. We wanted to call out the fact that it's been important to our membership that the feeding issues persist, and we know that access to leave and a right to leave changes feeding outcomes. So again, some of that information shared from the U.S. Breastfeeding Committee, and along with some of the information shared by the White House, right, during the formula shortage that was faced in 2022. And so, of course, we have some mom's agenda bills that go after the feeding issue, but what we're tying back to here is how feeding and as it relates to paid leave and the opportunity to access maternity leave to establish feeding systems for you and your child. There is another note here that I'll just be like really transparent. I would like this particular piece to have some more oomph to it. So if you have research or thoughts or ways that we might call this out more, paid leave should not be limited to live births. People who are recovering from stillbirth, miscarriage, and other pregnancy complications should be allowed the same considerations for paid leave. I would love to include some research. We didn't get any with the submitted, with the submissions we received via Google Forms. But if someone has some of this at your fingertips, if not, I will find something before this is submitted. But I feel very strongly that we need to make the case and call this out very specifically for loss for our community. Yes, I know, Cheryl. Christine had like the most amazing quotes. I mean, she's such a great writer. So I'll leave that to you all when it comes to loss, miscarriage, and stillbirth. But I know that it's important for our community to call that out, and so I'd like to highlight it even more so than it already has been done there. And then we go down into addressing equity and disparities. And this is just really any time that we're writing an opinion or that we're sharing the Mom Congress Insight, we always want to make sure that equity and disparities are something that are always line item called out, because we know that at every single piece of this research, feedback, and insight, that the outcomes always need to be discussed about how equity is an issue at all levels. So we included the National Partnership for Women and Families research here, which had some really great research pieces that we hope they already have access to, but if not, we think will be really informative. And then we just offer a simple thanks here at the end of the letter. We did not add Mom Congress signatures to this. I'm sort of curious to see, I know it's a very small subset of us on here, but I wonder if that's something we'd like to do in the future where, you know, if you provided feedback, would you like your name signed? Or are we all quite happy with the group? Sincerely from 2024 Mom Congress advocates, member advocates, however we want to define that. This is, you know, a new opportunity for our organization as far as writing on behalf of the membership instead of saying our membership is advocating for specific bills. So we really welcome your insight and your thoughts to how this plays out for us. Oh, awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Cheryl. I will make sure to look into that. There were a couple bills this year that we were we're just waiting for the bipartisan sponsor to jump on, and I'm wondering if that might be one of them, but I'll have to have a peek at it. So okay, that's a lot of talking from me and a lot of kind of talking through. I'd be happy to give everyone a minute if you'd like to read through the specific pieces. Again, you can send a message through in chat if you like, or come off mute and give us any of your thoughts or opinions. And for a lot of you, you might just be soaking it in. It's a whole lot of information to kind of throw your way in 30 minutes here. So.
This is Cheryl again. I think what I really like about Christine's quote is that it gets at the part that worries me about the potential of a federal. So I'll say, actually, I'm going to back up. This working group is not committed to like universal comprehensive paid leave. They're committed to more paid leave for more people. That being said, I think that these responses are an opportunity to be like, this is actually like basic human rights stuff, you know, like it should be. So I don't think that we should just bend to that, like, you know, incremental change is something to be celebrated, and I don't think that's the only thing we should push for. My concern about having like I really like what Christine lifted up around expansive paid parental leave, because what we don't want is a situation where it's like there's only paid maternity leave and then nobody wants to hire women because they're like the risk to us or the expense to us or anything like that. So I think that's addressed in a couple of spaces, but that's one thought I have around punching it up a little bit. And I'm hoping that I think you're dead on about oh my God, that was such a terrible word choice. I'm very sorry. But around leave in the case of loss, I think that's a really important component, and strengthening that up is really smart. And I'm happy to, I actually do have to jump to another call in like 10 minutes, but I'm happy to try to find more language or anything like that if it's helpful. But you guys did a great job on this.
That's awesome, Cheryl. Yeah, and I will circle back with you to see what else I might pull. I put a couple feelers out too with a few people in the lost community to say like, so I may do a few more of those here too, and anything that we can collaboratively bring forward would be great, and we'll definitely highlight that more. So thank you for all your help. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, loss and NICU. Okay, Kelly, and any specific, that's a really great point. Let me think. Who has a thought? I mean, I know that we've honed in on maternity leave versus all types of leave and access to all types of leave. And Cheryl, to your point that you just brought up, I feel like I looked at a good piece of research the other day that was specifically talking about proving the point that it was not detrimental to business to offer paid leave. So I want to pull that piece up too and see if that might speak to the whole idea of not hiring women, or especially not the, people that are in birthing years, so on and so forth.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there analysis that shows that the cost of providing leave is most likely lower than the cost of recruiting and onboarding a new employee?
Yes. So that piece that I was just sharing there, I'm going to see if I can find that real quick and share it with you. And then I might ask Ebony too, if you have thoughts for, I know that we reflected on the inclusion of loss and miscarriage, but I would love to expand more on the idea of NICU, and if there's a specific, I don't know if it's, if we describe it as a need, or like how do we call out the differences for the NICU, right? And I think some of that is ingrained in that give people the time that they need. We're saying that the research shows at a minimum 14 weeks. But then what does the research show for medically fragile children, or for how long your stay in the NICU is? And maybe we just need to say that should be a consideration. Please understand that this many babies are born into the NICU every year, and that should be a special population in the way that it's considered. And Alexia, please go right ahead. I see your hand raised.
Thank you. No, I was just going to say, so a couple things that came to mind, and I'm thinking in terms of even my time in human resources for organizations and trying to determine like the best benefits. But two things, I'm gonna start with the NICU piece. This could relate to other areas as well, but I know one of the things that's typically a challenge is always that there's no maternity leave provided until you birth a child, right? So most people are trying to save all of their leave for after the birth experience. And so what tends to happen for those NICU families is because their babies were born a little more they were born preterm, they do need more than the average. So if we're saying the average is 14 weeks, then to your point, it may also be a consideration of how many additional weeks based on how early of a birth that was. And I think there is data that shows, like from the NICU perspective, how much time you expect a child to be in the NICU based on what age they were gestation when born. And so I can also look up the information that we've had for some of the reports we've had to give out. So that's one thing. And just to start with that NICU piece. But the other piece I think too is, and this may already be mentioned in some capacity because I jumped on a little bit late, but there's the maternity leave and then there's also flexibility in work. And so I don't know if that can also fit under here, is that it may not necessarily just be leave of time, but it's also flexibility when returning. So there should be at least data that talks about, like we were just saying, the cost of onboarding a new associate, but also like the cost of healthcare increases if a birthing person has to return to the hospital early, or has to increase in what their mental health needs are simply because of the anxiety that comes to having to return to work. So some employers offer like you can return to work in if that's possible, a virtual capacity, or maybe another capacity so that you can transition a little easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. Putting some notes. Oh, Ebony's putting notes too, and I'm putting a couple notes at the bottom here that we'll absorb back into the information. And we'll look forward to anything that that you find and are able to share. Thank you so, so much. Christine, in response to what you just put in the chat here, you're in Maryland. I don't know if you can speak specifically. Did you have your children there and did you have access to leave in Maryland, or what was it like for you then?
So two parts, I put two different things. First kid, I did have like the NICU challenges, so the maternity leave would have been critical, or an extended maternity leave. I was just saying that. But then with the second kid, I did take maternity leave like a week before I gave birth in Maryland, yes, because I was having other complications.
Okay, got it, got it. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how we line it out here. You know, we put in special considerations and other information for consideration. So it's like, do we categorize, the line item here that I'm looking at is paid leave should not be limited to live births. And that's really where we want to address miscarriage and or stillbirth and how that's defined. And then we have the separate issue of live birth with special considerations. So that's your NICUs or your maternal, mortality complications and things of that nature. That should all be considered on top of just the regular ask for a minimum of 14 weeks. And somebody did comment earlier in the chat, one of the things that we pulled out during the analysis was the recognition of the fourth trimester, and wondering, how that is honored and or if it's ever considered at the legislative level. And I don't know. I did see it in a comment or two, people saying like, I don't know what the right time is, but this is one place where they could start. So just want to say that I see that, and think it would be really interesting if that was how we started to honor it. It might really change public perspective in general on the duration of pregnancy and expectancy and what that's actually like. Okay, so we have a couple things that we definitely need to look into. Ebony, tell me if I've got the same notes that you do here. We want to look into NICU and birth complications as a line item call out for something that we need to address when it comes to paid leave considerations. Research on cost to businesses, which I think I reference is a piece that I know I've seen recently that we can pull back up. But if anyone else has more information on that, there is some really good research that shows that it is not a cost of business. And oh, perfect. Oh, thank you so much, Lori. I'm going to grab that link right now. It's a resource that we should know off the top of our heads easily. That's from the 2020 Mom, the Policy Center's website. And that research that she just shared shows the ties back into maternal mental health, which has been called out several times for something that is positively impacted when we have access to leave. And then my final note, if I can find where I left it here. is notes about flexibility of work upon return. So, calling out any considerations that people should have for what a return to work situation looks like. And I guess we would be calling that out specifically for maternity leave, because again, with our thought process of people should have access to the leave that they need, you should also have access to the return that's accessible to keep you in the job.
Yep, that's pretty much the notes I had. I just captured, I believe it was Cheryl, who kind of mentioned the gender equity component about, women having equal access and that this not impacting, hiring, or rehiring of women. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more note, just pulling from the chat here, which is a really great call out by Susan. Thank you so much for saying it. Is the question about how does this work with adoptive parents and or same-sex couples? Or she's just referencing, are we going to call, I think you're asking if we're going to call that out. That's really a great point, Susan. And I think I don't know if we put the term adoptive in here or not yet, but I think that that's definitely something that we should include. And I think we could be specific. Oh, thank you, Ebony. I see right there. So Ebony has called it out right here. So if we can just include adoptive in the words that we're going to add there when it comes to gender equity, NICU, so on and so forth, just to make sure that we include that language. It's really important. Thank you so much. I know, Kelly, the kite baby drama, y'all, did you hear about the kite baby drama? I only knew about it because my sister has gifted me some really nice kite baby pieces over the years. And so I had to text Ebony on the weekend and I was like, Ebony, kite baby, oh my gosh. The long story short is that it's a bamboo clothing company, female owned by a woman in Texas. And they had a employee who has now shared in the news that she had complications getting pregnant. She and her partner had for many years wanted a family and then ended up on an adoption list. Finally got the call that they were up for an adoption. They needed to go be with their new baby in the NICU, which she's in Dallas and the baby was in El Paso, which is like a 9-hour drive, still within the same state. Obviously, Texas is huge, but she had called back and asked to have remote work instated so that she could stay in the NICU and continue her job. And her request was denied. And she was told either you come back to work or you don't have a job. And Kelly or anybody else can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was her sister that shared the story online. Like, I cannot believe that a family-focused baby company is making this call. And then there was a response from the CEO, and then it only got worse from there because they didn't feel that the response was genuine. But she came back. I mean, it's just highlighting a problem that I think was mentioned right at the top of the call. It's like, if you, there's just not protections in place, and there were certainly no protections in place for her. And she has moved on. They invited her to come back to work for the company and she declined, but that's the story like that that's highlighted right now, and it's hot in the news, and it was controversial, and there were lots of things that made it a newsworthy story. But we know this happens all day, every day, all the time. It happens to people in their jobs consistently, and it never makes the news. And usually there's no recourse for you. You just lose your job. Yes, exactly, Susan. And that speaks to Alexia's point about flexibility upon return. People having COVID showed that to us, right? Like people could be a lot more flexible once they just were kind of forced to figure out that flexibility. So seeing what parents can do when given the opportunity, if you want to work, find a way to let you work. So thanks for calling that out, Susan. That's greatly appreciated. Other thoughts, reflections, concerns, or celebrations that anyone would like to share with us? What we will intend to do is spend the next couple of hours going back, going through the pieces that we called out there, and then we will push the letter out to the community later this afternoon, so everyone can have the opportunity to review. You all see my cell phone number in my email signature. You are welcome to call or text me. If you want me to see something or you want to call something out, you have an aha moment after we get off the call, I'm happy to take that feedback any way you'd like to send it. And again, we will intend on sharing this with the paid leave working group tomorrow, around midday. And tomorrow is their deadline for responses. So this is a reminder that if you would like to spread the word about the community, we would love to have you invite other people to join us. We're still offering our $5 membership. So I will put the code 5 in the chat here.
And I'll
Anyone,
jump in and say Crystal's being very modest. Not if you would like, we would love for you to invite members. That is a free way for you all to help us. We're really looking to grow, build, and sustain our network so that we can continue to develop mom leaders. So if you are a part of a network, have a network, please, please, please invite them to become Mom Congress members.
and 2 points to that. One, if you have your own organization or nonprofit or group that you associate with, and you would like a unique code that you can give out when you share that membership, let me know. That's very easy for me to generate. Would be happy to generate a unique discount code for you or your organization. And also want to share that I've had a couple people ask, like, hey, I want a $5 membership. Like, I could use $40 off. So to that end, Ebony and I will be publishing a Mom Congress bingo card. We hope to have that done for our next community gathering, where you'll have a little opportunity to see some of the goals for things that you can do this year, participating in calls to action, making a couple phone calls on behalf of moms, agenda bills, things of that nature. And one of the prizes will be access to get that same discount. So if you are seeing that discount and wondering how you can get access to it, we want to make sure that if that's important to you, that you get access to a discounted membership too. So we would like to remind you on our next slide about our next opportunity for our community to come together. So if you did not join us on the National Day of Racial Healing, you're welcome to go back and review that recording. It's published on the Mom Congress YouTube, also on the member webpage. It was a fantastic conversation with a great presentation from the National Partnership for Women and Families on their recently updated toolkit. So a great tool to have in your toolbox to share with your legislators or to keep your groups and organizations informed. From that, we are starting a Mom Congress member community racial healing conversation. So we're going to start on February 16th. These sessions will not be recorded. This is private for our community and an opportunity for education and healing. To that end, again, it won't be recorded. It will only be offered to us live. This is going to be our first session, but we are going to have a series that will go on throughout the rest of the year. So if you miss this one, please know that you'll be invited to join a subsequent one, and we'll continue to challenge ourselves and each other to have some really deep and important conversations. And we hope that if you're looking forward to doing work like that, that you will join us. It would be wonderful to have you. And I think that is everything for today. Thank you all for your time and your passion and energy, and for amazing responses and, really, really, really powerful impact that I think this will have. I can't wait to see a bipartisan piece of legislation come out that we can get behind. Would be really exciting to move the needle on this finally. Ebony, anything else you need to share with community before we go today?
Nope, just appreciative for all of the feedback, and thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Hopefully see you on the 16th.